Hi, and welcome to the turbulent world with me, James M. Dorsey, as your host. Policymakers in Tehran and Moscow are asking who lost Syria in a tectonic rewrite of the Middle East geopolitical map that has ousted President Bashar al Assad's principal backers, struggling to limit their losses. Russian President Vladimir Putin sought to preempt the debate by firing Lieutenant General Sergei Kissel, the commander of Russian forces in Syria, as soon as the rebels broke out of their northern enclave of Idlib and captured Aleppo, Syria's second largest city. Similarly, Iran quickly contacted the rebels to prevent what one official described as a hostile trajectory between the two countries. In an effort to rewrite history, Iranian officials said the Islamic Republic's intervention in Syria intended to counter the Islamic State rather than the rebels. The officials said Iran had always favored dialogue between the Assad regime and its opponents. Iranian and Russian intervention in Syria prevented the rebels from toppling Mr. al-Assad earlier. The main concern for Iran is whether Assad's successor will push Syria away from Tehran's orbit. That is the scenario Iran is keen to avoid, said another Iranian official. The stakes are higher for Iran than for Russia. That was evident in the contrast between the ransacking of the Iranian embassy in Damascus and the calm around Russia's Khmeimim air base and its Tartus naval facility, which Moscow leased for 49 years. Footage from inside the embassy's premises showed that assailants had rummaged through furniture and documents. Iranian Foreign Minister spokesman Esmail Baghai said Iranian diplomats had vacated the embassy prior to any assault. Iran's state TV said Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the largest, best armed rebel group, had guaranteed there would be no disturbance to the Sayyida Zainab and Sayyida Ruqayya Shiite Muslim shrines in Damascus. Even so, the fall of Mr. al-Assad has crippled one of the Iranian defense strategy's three pillars, forcing the Islamic Republic to revisit its broader regional policies. Lacking an air force and navy of any repute because of decades of US United Nations economic sanctions, Iranian defense relied on Syria and an alliance of non-state actors, dubbed the Axis of Resistance, for its forward defense alongside its development of ballistic missiles and its program. The ousting of Mr. al-Assad and the weakening of Hezbollah in the recent Lebanon war have all but neutralized the alliance deterrence element by removing two of its main constituents from Israel's borders. Even starker, Iran could discover that setbacks have turned the alliance from an asset into a liability, no longer fits its purpose. The alliance was further weakened when Iran-backed Iraqi politicians and militia officials rejected the Iranian foreign minister's request that they send reinforcements to Syria in support of Mr. al-Assad. The fall of the Syrian president means that Iran and its allies will no longer be able to maintain a military presence in Syria or use the country as a major support hub for Hezbollah, the Lebanese Shiite militia that is forced to move away from the Lebanese-Iranian border under a recent ceasefire agreement. Mr. al-Assad's overthrow ends Syria's role as a playground for Iranian ambitions, spreading sectarianism and stirring corruption, said Ahmed al-Shara, aka Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, the leader of Hayat Tahrir. The fact that a popular armed insurrection toppled Mr. al-Assad has set off alarm bells in Moscow and Tehran. Russia has long viewed popular revolts in Ukraine and other East European nations as US engineered efforts to destabilize Russia's neighborhood, while Iranians have repeatedly taken to the streets in mass anti government protests. The situation in the Islamic Republic is not comparable to Syria at all. Nonetheless, one should take note of public opinion, said conservative Iranian politician and journalist Nasser Imani. Critics removed without explanation social media postings in which they asserted that Iran had wasted resources on supporting an unpopular leader in Syria, an implicit criticism of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, a friend and staunch supporter of Mr. al-Assad. Even so, some fear that the collapse of the Assad regime could strengthen the hand of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and its hardline supporters. IRGC members asserted that abandoning Mr. al-Assad constituted betrayal that would have serious consequences for Iran. Qasra Arabi, a Washington-based anti-Iranian activist, IRGC member, as saying, "We zealous youth get the cowardice of the decision makers." The fallout of Mr. al-Assad's toppling is likely to be less existential for Iran, even if it will probably deprive Moscow of its two foremost military bases in the Middle East and the Eastern Mediterranean, and undermine its positioning as a major regional power broker. The bases also allowed Russia to use Syria as a transit hub for Russian mercenaries operating in Africa. What Tartus meant for Russia was the ability to project maritime power and political influence relatively uncontested in the Middle East, and allowed it to punch above its weight, said Frederick van Lokeren, a retired Belgian naval officer. The rebels have yet to comment on the future of the long-standing Russian facilities, from which Russian aircraft attacked rebels as they progressed down Syria's M5 highway towards Damascus. But already, the contrast with the ransacked Iranian embassy in Damascus could not be starker. As Mr. al-Assad and his family fled to Moscow, Russian state television announced that the rebels had guaranteed the security of the military bases and diplomatic missions in Syria. The Russian Foreign Ministry said there was no Syria threat to them at the current time. The rebel assurances helped soften the blow to Russian prestige. Allowing Mr. al-Assad to leave for Moscow enabled Russia to claim that it stuck by its friends, while ensuring that the former would be limited in his ability to attempt a comeback. In return, state-run Russian media have changed their tone. The press stopped describing the rebels as terrorists, referring to them instead as the armed opposition that has taken power in Syria. At the same time, the Syrian embassy in Moscow raised the opposition flag as Mr. al-Assad set foot on Russian soil. For Russia and Iran, the silver lining is that Hayat Tahrir appears more interested in focusing on Syria's rehabilitation and reconstruction rather than retaliation. In doing so, the rebels may help Mr. al-Assad's backers save face while taking out one of their foremost regional assets. Thank you for joining me today. Thousands across the globe are avid readers and listeners of the turbulent world. Join them in helping maintain and expand the column and podcast by becoming a paid supporter. Paid subscribers have access to the full archive, exclusive posts and polling, can leave comments, join debates, and know they are supporting independent writing, reporting, and analysis that lets the chips fall where they fall. You can contribute by going to jamesmdorsey.substack.com and choosing one of the subscription options. Thank you for your support and loyalty. Take care and best wishes.